This is Let's Talk Teens, a parenting podcast sharing tips on raising amazing teenagers. We are both certified life coaches that have worked with teenagers as coaches, mentors, and teachers. We are sharing what we found to work when dealing with teens and tough issues.
This is episode 7, Let's Talk Teens with Abbi and Cheree. Today, our topic is what to do when your teen has a breakup.
Oh, Cheree, I don't know about you, but I have some crazy breakup dating stories in high school, and I feel like everybody does because it's just such a painful, fresh, vulnerable time in your life that your heart can get what's that word? Shrapade? Is that there we go. Sharp. But I wanted to share today some of the tips that I have found that work really well with teenagers when they are going through a breakup because oh, watch out, mom and dad. Like that is such a hard time to be around your teen. Like either they're just so sad or they're really mean and vicious. It can be anything. So here really quick are some things that I found work for me. And then I would love to hear what you have found works for you and your coaching business with your clients. But I always tell parents when they're like, oh my gosh, my teen's going through a breakup, it's so nightmare at our house. I say, you know what? Keep them grounded, especially in their thoughts. We have a tendency when our heart has been hurt, we feel so vulnerable, we feel so exposed that our thoughts fly off onto the I'll never get married. Nobody's ever gonna love me. This was my one person. It gets a little extreme really fast. So I always tell
For sure.
parents pull them in, ground them in facts of just, you know what, you are amazing. This happens to a lot of people. Just pulling anywhere you can. It's like they're in a balloon up in space and you're just pulling them back down, trying to help them focus on facts. I found that that's really helpful to bring their mindset back for them. I also think that this is a time to really love on your teen. I have found that even just with parenting my littles, when I know that they're having a hard day or man, they didn't get enough sleep, or when I was a teacher and I'd get an insight on a teen and what they were going through at home, it made dealing with their outspoken behavior or a rude comment so much easier because I had a perspective that was a little bit different. So just leaning into that perspective as a parent of going, okay, they're really grouchy and upset because they went through a breakup. Let's give them a pass card this time. And, you get to navigate that as a parent of when you're going to say, hey, it's time to stop being mean and grouchy, but also just going, you know what? This is really hard. I remember what this was like for me, and it sucks. And then one of my favorite things that I love to tell parents, Cheree, is that you want to stay neutral. And what I mean by this is it is so tempting when somebody has hurt your beautiful baby and their heart's on the line and you just want to get this person and you want to say, oh my gosh, yes, I've always hated Jason and he was awful and his mother's obnoxious. You just want to go off because you feel like you are on your teenager's side, right? By saying some hurtful things about that other person because they've hurt your baby. But here's why I say do not do this, mom and dad. What you are doing is that you are blocking the road for your teenager to reconnect with this person. And I totally know that for a lot of us, especially when they've broken your teen's heart, you're like, please never come into our life again. I really didn't like you or you weren't a great influence. But why I say stay neutral is your teen is going to do what they're going to do, whether that's reconnect with this person or not date them again. And often in high school, there is a reconnection, whether that's we're just going to be friends or we are going to date and try this relationship again. And you want your teen to feel like they can come and talk to you about that. If I've set the ground that I don't like Jason and I've never liked him and you're so much better than him, well, if my teen daughter then wants to go and reconnect a friendship with Jason or even have him come over to the house with a group of friends, she's going to feel like she can't do that. Like that, she knows how I really feel. And so then it leads to secrecy. It leads to them not really disclosing the full truth of maybe where they're at or who they're hanging out with. So I just say, hey, leave all options open for your teenager, right? And just stay neutral so that when they do decide to reconnect or to build back a friendship, that they feel like they can do that without having to betray your trust, which I know doesn't make logical sense to you and I as adults, but for a teenager, it's a big deal when they go, "Oh, my mom doesn't like this person." So I that
Love
was
that.
fast and furious, Cheree. But what do you coach your clients on when it comes to breakups?
Well, first of all, I just have to say I love all those thoughts, and that last one, I think that mama bear wants to come out when our kids get hurt. And I love the staying neutral. So, so smart. Okay, so some of my favorites is really let your teenager be messy. Let all the emotions come, let them cry, let them be mad. I mean, it's going to go in lots of it's going to be a roller coaster, right? And just let them be messy and nothing's gone wrong and you don't need to fix it. And I think that's so hard as a mom or a dad. We want to fix their pain, we want to get them out of it and oh, it's going to be okay and convince them that they're going to get over this and that, someday they're going to meet someone that's so amazing. I think that's a bad idea. At first, I just think to let them be messy, let them feel, think, get all the ugly out and just sit with them. Like sometimes what our teens need the most is just for their mom or dad to just sit with them and let them be messy. So
Oh,
that's my number one tip. Let them be
Cheree,
messy.
can I say that? So I for those of you listening, I did YouTube for years. That's how I started out in coaching and stuff. So there's lots
Love
of
it.
videos on my YouTube channel, and one of them talks about how during a breakup, what's actually been scientifically proven to help you process some of those emotions is you take a pillow and with like a spatula or a wooden spoon, and you hit that pillow every time you say something that was like a desire of your heart. So you're like, I will never go to prom with this person. And you smack the pillow. And you say, I will never be Mrs. So and so. And you smack the pillow. And it's just one way that you can actually like vent out those emotions. So I love that. I thought of that when you were saying, like, let them be messy, like, let them hit the pillow, let them cry over their dreams of what could have been not happening. And I remember when I was teaching seminary that one of my students came up to me and she was like, Sister Winslow, I did your pillow trick. And I was like, for a minute, I was like, what in the world? But then I remembered, I was like, oh, did you have a heartbreak happen? And she said, yeah. And that pillow trick really, really helped. And so I was like, oh,
Love
good.
it.
You go smack that pillow, girl. But that's what I love being messy.
Be messy. And I love that. I love that idea. Um, I think it's important to make plans with your teenager after a breakup as far as when they're used to being with that boy or girl so much, and then all of a sudden they have no Friday night plans. I think it's important just to make some plans and just say, hey, it's family pizza night or movie night, or let's go the mini golf, or let's go to a movie and not make it like, oh, because you don't have anything to do, let's go do something. I'm going to do something with you. Make it kind of just a natural, like, hey, Friday night at the drive-in or whatever, are there any drive-ins? I don't even know, but there you go. But it's just really thinking, okay, I'm going to make it so they're not having to stay home on a Friday night with no plans. Help them make plans just so they have something to do and they can take their mind off of it. Um, with taking their mind off of it, another thing I always tell teens to do, and I love it when parents encourage their teens to do this, is you can think about it all day long, that breakup and that person, and you're going to cry about it all day long. Because as we talked about in a previous episode, our thoughts create our emotions. So I encourage teenagers and parents, you can teach your kids this to set a specific time of day that you're going to think about that person that just broke your heart. So 6 o'clock comes and you have 15 minutes and you just think about them and think about how hurt you are and think about how everything's gone wrong for 15 minutes. And that way, all day long, when you want to think about them, you put it on a shelf and say, "Oh, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to think about this." And that really helps the mind not ruminate and think about them all day long and keep us stuck. So I like to set a specific time to think about that person that is the breakup. One last thing I really like to encourage teens to do, and parents can help encourage the teens, is cut ties that eliminate triggers. So I'm talking mostly social media here, but I don't find it very helpful when they've been in a relationship and then they're constantly checking their Instagram or Snapchat or whatever and making sure that they're always seeing where their location is or what they're doing to like really, it really is important to cut those ties that will eliminate the triggers. So those are the suggestions I always give parents and teens of like, okay, here's some things you can do in a breakup to make it not quite as painful or to get through it a little bit better.
I second this notion of like when your teen's going through a tough time, make them your errand buddy. Like you're going to the grocery store, bring your teen.
Mhm.
You're going to go run little siblings to soccer practice, you're bringing your teen. Like you are just gonna hook your hand onto them and be like, you're coming with me because we don't want them sitting and stewing. I also think it's really important to tell teens that they don't have to immediately be friends with this person after. I think we're all obsessed with this, oh, let's still stay friends and like kind of saving face and stuff. And I always tell my clients, I'm like, guess what? You do not need to hang out with this person. You do not need to immediately turn around and be like, oh, no big deal. Not like it's fine. We can totally hang out. And that goes with your point of we don't need to be on social media. We don't need to be stalking them. We need to actually give some space for their absence and recognize, okay, who am I now that they're not a part of me? And it's okay if I don't want to be friends right now.
And it's going to feel really uncomfortable. And so I think as a parent, help your teen say, yeah, this is really uncomfortable to cut ties. This is really uncomfortable to not, stalk them, or it's going to be really uncomfortable to take pictures down in your room, or it's going to feel scary to do that. And it's going to feel worse for a minute, but that's how we start to go from all those feelings of rejection to redirecting to other people, other relationships, other social experiences that we get to have. That redirection is really important. So when we get real hung up on, keeping all the ties, it doesn't help us move on.
Yeah. And I do feel like there is an element that is specifically high school relationships where, you break up with somebody and they're in your English class or they
Mhm.
are your group of friends?
For
And
sure.
so recognizing that and helping your teen think of healthy, normal, appropriate ways to distance themselves when they do sit next to this person in math class. When, hanging out with the friends includes hanging out with them. And so even walking your teen through like scenarios of saying, okay, you're at a party and they show up with a new person, like, what can you do? So just really, really realistic tips. But I think that this is such a painful experience for teens. And with a little bit of help and guidance, like they can really rock this. Like, I think all of us have been shaped by the relationships that didn't happen in our lives. And so, hopefully, these tips can help you out, mom and dad, as you try to navigate this with your teenager. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Teens, a parenting podcast to help you raise amazing teens. If you're looking for more help and tips on your teenager, visit Cheree on Instagram at Cheree Murdock Coaching, or you can find her on her website, ChereeMurdock.com. You can find Abbi on Instagram as Abbi Winslow or on her website, AbbiWinslow.com. Please subscribe and rate our podcast and share with a fellow parent that you think would love this episode.